Tim W. Rago here, and welcome to another episode of Paleo Files Reviews, where we've been stomping through your screen since March. And once again, this is another filler episode here while we're waiting for Dude Meister to come back from the Swedish festival over there. And once again, I'm joined by fellow Creature Obsessed.
How's it going, folks? Jurassic World Monsterverse 2 here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the show, Paleo Files Reviews. And as Tim said, we're doing yet another filler episode for Jurassic June. And yeah, take it away from here, bro. Tell them what we're getting ourselves into.
All right. So last time we covered one of the best little piece of dinosaur media, the Rite of Spring. Now we cover another short piece of dinosaur media. Now this is a dinosaur scene taken from a animal documentary made in 1956 called The Animal World, and there's this dinosaur bit in here which it does have a little bit of significance when it comes to paleo media because it's taken directly from a actual documentary made at the time. And of course at this time period the dinosaurs are done in stop motion, and they were done by, it's so crazy how it was a collaboration of Willis O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen, but come to find, and after hearing that, you would think that they both did the stop-motion animation on the dinosaurs, but come to find out, Willis O'Brien he designed the models, and Harryhausen did the animation, so they did collaborate on it, but Harryhausen did the hard part. Harryhausen mainly did the hard part, and he said that in an interview, he said they only worked like 6 weeks on this thing. So
which is impressive. It's impressive in terms of stop-motion animation because it was now coming to a point where they could get this done a lot quicker and more out there. So, and yeah, I knew about the fact that both Willis O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen worked on this in a sort of collaboration, if you will. But while we were watching this, Tim told me that O'Brien only designed the models, and Ray Harryhausen did the stop-motion animation. So that came as quite a shocker to me, because I thought, and you know, just like come to think of it, you'd expect them to do the stop-motion animation together, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's a little fact of the day for me. But yeah, it's impressive with how little time they got this done, and I don't know if they did get it done on time, but I'm assuming so, because it only took 6 short weeks to get it all done and out there. So, and like I said, it must have been at a time when stop-motion animation was getting done at a faster pacing or quicker process. I don't really know how the ins and outs of how it all works or its history. So I'm probably making myself look like a right dickhead here. So
now the thing with stop motion is you gotta remember, like, this short bit here, this came out like 2 years after, or 3 years really, after Ray Harryhausen did Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. So it's like, so you see that movie, and the stop motion in there is great for that. And then you see this, and this is 3 years after. And the one thing that I got to hand to O'Brien is the models on this thing. Well, the stop motion models anyway. Are honestly, I love the way these things look, especially on the carnivores. Like, you got Ceratosaurus, Allosaurus, and of course, you can't do a dinosaur bit without T-Rex. Like, T-Rex is
exactly.
And
exactly.
the models on the Predators are very. I love. And we were talking about this when we were doing Rite of Spring. I mentioned how I like retro dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs in this short were the heavy scaling. I always like seeing dinosaurs like when they're all scaly like a lizard. I always love seeing that heavily scaled look.
Like the skin texture, you mean?
Yeah, I love it when the skin textures are so reptilian. I know they're not reptiles, but I love retro dinosaurs having this heavy reptilian look with the heavy skin texture with them being all scaly. And O'Brien did a great job. He did a great job designing the models for these things. But the downside to this short is they had like these physical little puppets that they had, and oh my god, they did not look good at all. Like, I don't know why they even put the close-up shots that they had for these puppets. Like, because there's one shot at the end of this thing where they clearly did a Ceratosaurus close-up and that was a stop motion model. So why they used these crappy looking puppets, I have no idea, for close-up shots when they clearly showed that they can do it with stop motion. So I don't know, just these close-up models they had just looked so stiff, and they barely even moved, and I don't know, those didn't really need to be there, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and especially nowadays, like everything you just said regarding the close-up shots of the puppets. Yeah, I always thought that. Nowadays, I've always deemed that unnecessary because. But when I was younger, I always loved those close-up shots with the puppets because at the time I thought maybe they were trying to give it, and maybe part of me still feels this way now. Like maybe they were trying to give more of a sense of realism to make it a little more realistic. But I don't think, even though maybe they thought that they were hoping it would work in this short film's favor, it doesn't quite do so.
It truly does not, especially when the fact that, you see one great example is the scene where you have a fight where you have this fight involving Ceratosaurus, and you just see this one Ceratosaur take on a Stegosaurus, and you see the dinosaurs when they do the stop motion shots. The dinosaurs, they move very freely. They move around, and their whole bodies move. But then it jumps to the close-ups, and the close-ups, they barely move at all. Like it's a little jarring. It's a little jarring seeing like them move more freely and then go to these close-ups and they don't move at all hardly. Like maybe their mouth moves or maybe their arms move, but that's it.
You see their eyes moving a little as well, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But
the only good close-up puppet in this short was the Brontosaurus, because that looked just like the stop-motion model. Like, it looked copy and paste like the stop-motion model. And that one was honestly, like, the best-looking one, even though it moved really stiff. But the rest of them, especially, much like how you can't do a dinosaur anything without T-Rex, you always got to have Triceratops. And honest to God, the Triceratops puppet is like the honest to God. And this is going to sound weird from all y'all, me being a dinosaur fan here, but that Triceratops puppet was the worst effect in this short. That was the worst looking thing I've ever seen because, number one, it looked too smooth. It looked way too smooth, and when it moved around, its whole front end moved. Like, the front legs were, like, still. And the whole thing was just moving side to side. And the mouth moved just up and down. Like, that thing... It's like, oh my god, it's a puppet. Like, that's how I felt looking at it. Like, oh my god, it's a puppet. But it's so weird though how the herbivores in this thing were all smooth. Like, they had some skin texturing to them, some, not a whole bunch. They were smooth. It's kind of interesting how like the predators were heavily scaly, and then the herbivores were smooth, like elephant skin. Well. Elephant skin's not really smooth, but
it's weak.
It's just interesting how they were smooth, though. Like the Triceratops and the Brontosaurus, their skin textures were very smooth. Like they barely had any texturing on them at all. Like the models did look good, but they weren't textured much, which was very interesting. But I tell you, the Brontosaurus model in this, well, the stop motion one anyway. I even asked you this while we were watching it. I can't tell which one looks better, the Brontosaurus in this, or the one that would later be made for 1 million years BC.
Yeah, and I'll get that in a minute, but I just want to say, like with you saying, you know, the differences in model design when comparing the skin texture between the vegetarians and the theropods. Yeah, I'm right with you on that, and honestly, you're making points here that I didn't really notice up until upon my second viewing of this. And yeah, you're right, because like they really, like I can't really complain too much, you know. I don't really have any complaints, and I really dislike complaining about anything that is really quite good, But with Willis O'Brien's models, when it comes to the vegetarians, I really think he should have included some more skin texture for the Brontosaurus or the Triceratops. You know, make them have more bumpy or wrinkly skin, like you see on a pachyderm, for example. But yeah, you're right; they're just very smooth, smooth.
Yeah, like design-wise, they look good.
Yeah, when you see the theropods, their skin texture is fantastic and, you know, brilliant even, because, you know, they're heavily scaled, and it's like he really focused more on the theropods rather than the Brontosaurus and the other plant eaters. Like, he paid more concentration and learn them. He focused more on them rather than the other dinosaurs.
That is what it looks like. Oh, and speaking of the theropods, you know, the one odd thing here, the one thing that's in... Well, actually, before I get to the theropods, there had to have been an inside joke regarding the Brontosaurus in this thing, because the opening of the dinosaur sequence here, it opens up with, like, the narrator talking, like, showing bits in a museum and showing off the dinosaurs as in their, you know, showing off their skeletons. And when he talks about the Brontosaurus, he talks about the transition from the museum to the dinosaur scenes is hilarious, because he says, man had not yet been created, but if he had been, and it just shows the Brontosaurus picking up a caveman, and you hear the caveman start screaming. I swear to Christ, since Willis O'Brien designed that, that had to have been a King Kong joke. That so had to have been like a...
It had to have been. And they probably, you know, went along with it. I don't know if Willis O'Brien maybe improvised that himself, or if they asked permission for him to do that, and he probably chuckled about it and said, no problem, let's do it.
Because when I saw that, and it's just like, oh, a Brontosaurus picking somebody up, and then I'm like, wait a second here. Where is that from? And then it's like...
I see what they're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I see what you people did, but I don't know why, I just thought it was hilarious, because it just reminded me of the dude, of the last guy from King Kong 1933 that was up in the tree, and the Brontosaurus grabs him, and the dude starts shaking and everything. I just kind of find that interesting that, like, they threw that little thing in there. Had to have been a joke. If that was not, like, Willis O'Brien and Harryhausen's little, like, side joke for the Bronto, I don't know what is. But, the one thing about the Brontosaurus is, and I remember this in so many old, conceptions of sauropods, is that they stayed in the water because apparently they were so heavy on land that they couldn't move much, so they mainly were in the water.
That I have read that theory, that idea of the sauropods. They were so heavy that they couldn't support their weight on land, and they had to spend most of their lives, out in open water so they could support their weight. We now know that is completely untrue.
Dated. That theory is very dated. And it's so crazy how it says that, and yet that Brontosaurus looked like and they said it was a she, like they straight up said it was a she. Like she looked like she looked like she was moving on land pretty good. Like I love how it's saying like oh yeah. Huh?
She looked fine to me. She didn't need to be supported by water. The land was supporting her just fine.
Yeah, exactly. The way the model was moving compared to what the narrator was saying, that kind of felt a little contradicting in that one itty-bitty little instance. That kind of felt contradicting in there. And then I think, honestly, the main highlight of this whole thing is the fight scene where you have a Stegosaurus on a cliff, and it's just eating a bush or whatever, and then a Ceratosaurus just walks up to it, and they just start fighting. And it's so crazy how Harryhausen, he had balls for the time period, because you literally see the Ceratosaurus literally rip a chunk out of the Stego's neck right before it dies. And even Harryhausen himself said that at first showing of that sequence, that the bloodiness of it did kind of scare a few test audiences back when they made that.
Really?
Well, because at the time having blood showing that much blood in anything back then was considered like, are you nuts? Like, why would you do this? And why would you do that? And then I just love how. I love how Harryhausen loves to make his theropods jump. They jump. He literally makes them jump. Like, you just see a second Ceratosaurus literally jump into frame. Like, I'm sitting there wondering, where did you jump from? Like, where did you jump off of? Like, did you jump off a hill or something? Because this other Cerato literally jumps into frame, and then they start fighting. Like, then the two Ceratos just get in this fight, and both of them fall off the cliff, Unknown Island style. Like, they just go falling off this damn cliff here.
Yeah, they just randomly appear in the frame. They just somehow just appear out of nowhere and jump into the frame.
And I will admit, though, it's so funny how, when it comes to Harryhausen, all of his creatures, I love how their tails constantly move. Like, their tails don't stop moving. Like, their tails are constantly swishing back and forth. That's it. That is one thing about Harryhausen when he does his creatures, is the whole thing has to move. Like, there's no part of it that's not stiff. Like, the entire body has to move. Like, every single part of the animal has to move. Like, every bit of it has to move. And then you've got... One odd thing I want to point out is, when it gets to the bit where you have, like, the T-Rex confronting the Triceratops, I love how they do a little bit of build-up to the Rex's appearance in this, where they play the roar of the Rhedosaurus from Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Like, they don't even hide it. It's literally the same sound effect. It's the same sound effect, and you don't hear it not once, but twice. And then all of a sudden, here comes the Rex start confronting the Trike, and then, of course, they do an extinction.
Oh, sorry. just having a few connection issues here, folks. Should be fine now. Okay, I think we should be fine now. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was going to say, have you ever noticed that this short film, this sequence, was the only time Ray Harryhausen ever did stop motion for a T-Rex?
That, you know what, that is very true. This is the first time he did it for a Tyrannosaurus Rex, because the last T-Rex done in this style was, I think, was in King Kong, actually, from 1933. The Rex from that movie. Yeah, I think this is the first time Harryhausen ever did a T-Rex.
No, but this was the only time he did it. This is the only time he ever animated a T-Rex. Like, with every other dinosaur film that Ray Harryhausen did work on, there was never a T-Rex after that.
Oh, that's true, because he did he did the Allosaurus and the Cerato in 1 million years BC, and then he did Guanji, which is again an Allosaurus, and of course Valley of Guanji. Yeah, that's right. This is the only time he ever did Tyrannosaurus Rex. I would have loved to see if he did Spinosaurus, like if he were to have animated a Spinosaurus. That would have been, honestly, that kind of would have been cool if he did it. How
that would have been awesome.
How people interpreted Spinosaurus back then, and what do you think of like the miniature sets they had, like the little miniature sets that the dinosaurs were walking through? Like they look kind of basic, like your basic prehistoric landscape with like some trees.
Yeah, for the animals just look like. Yeah, they just look like every other, sort of prehistoric landscape that you see. Oh no! Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah, you're good.
Oh, come on.
Now your voice is coming in good.
Shit.
No,
am I good?
Yeah, you're fine, dude.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about this, guys. We're having a little
technical
poor network interference right now, so you're just gonna have to sit through.
Bear with us for
this one with us.
Bear with us for a few. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, the internet's having its own. The internet's having its own little sock moment.
No, what do you call? I will say this: when it comes to the environments, though, I do love the fact that they blended it with real stuff. Like there's actual shots of a real waterfall. There's shots like real waterfalls and real. They did like some actual locations, just to blend in with the dinosaur stuff here. But then, of course, they always have to do an extinction scene, and this one involving a volcano, a miniature volcano nonetheless, that literally just explodes in a fireball, and lava starts pouring through the woods, and all of a sudden, like, dinosaurs just fall off cliffs and shit. Like, they just kind of go ape shit with the extinction bit. Like, they just say like, oh yeah, the dinosaurs they all went extinct because of the Earth's cataclysms.
Like this dinosaur extinction sequence, it puts the one that we watched in Rite of Spring to shame, or it's up there with it, because they went all out. They went all out just as much as they did with Rite of Spring, because the way the dinosaurs died here is quite over the top.
It very over the top, especially the Triceratops. The Triceratops gets sinks in a tar pit, and you just see this thing like while it's sinking, it's roaring constantly as it's slowly dying. It just roars constantly, and then you see a Ceratosaurus fall into a fissure and gets covered in lava. Like, good God, man, this poor thing. Like, oh my God, like, this was very over the top. Like, Rite of Spring felt very, like, natural because it was the dinosaurs dying of gradual starvation. And then in the animal world, it's just like, okay, the volcano is just gonna fuck everything up and fuck everybody up. Like, they literally went, like you said, they went really over the top with this extinction scene. Why am I laughing?
Yeah,
it's not supposed to be funny, but still.
I don't know. They really didn't know. They really didn't need to go that far. Like, especially with the Ceratosaurus falling into a ravine or a chasm or something, and then the lava comes pouring down on it. And then with the Triceratops as well. The Triceratops, man. I don't think it was a tar pit. I think it was like an actual pool of lava, and it somehow fell in. And yeah,
it makes me wonder what happened with the Rex, though. Like, it makes me wonder how'd the Rex die? How does how'd the Rex die? That's my question.
I don't want to know.
Like, seriously, the Cerato and the Trike got over the top deaths, and then you just see like the Brontosaurus dies from they do the death of like the camera with fire in front of the camera, and then the Bronto's head just sinking. So it's like, oh well, she just burned to death. And then the Stegosaur and the Rex, like, we don't know what happened to them. They just walk away from the fire, and that's it. And you never see them. You just never see them again.
They've already died in just as much horrific ways. Like, damn, man, that was so brutal.
And the lava, I think, just looked a little weird because it didn't really look like lava. It looked like a bunch of, like, it looked like syrup or some shit. It didn't look like lava. It looked like syrup with food coloring in it.
It looked like corn syrup, yeah.
Corn syrup, yeah. Corn lava. Corn lava. It looked like corn syrup with some other, I don't know, with food coloring or something.
Some sort of other chemical ingredient was put in there to try and make it look more like lava.
Well, it's actually crazy. I feel sorry for that model that they poured that shit on when the Cerato dies. I felt sorry for that model because I always just find it so weird in creature movies where, you know, they spend all this time making it just to fuck it up and destroy it by the end of the picture.
Yeah, it's quite wasteful, but I can understand how it can be deemed sort of necessary for the plot line or the storyline, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but that's true.
You know, a lot of effort was put into those.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden just falls into a ravine and gets covered in corn lava.
Corn lava!
That's me a new hashtag. Hashtag corn lava when you show a screenshot of this movie.
Corn lava! Corn lava!
But what's actually kind of interesting is the way they were doing, like, the green... They like green... Huh?
Sorry, I was going to say, what I find most interesting about this is, and this is the reason why I wanted to do a review on this one. The reason why this little short is significant in its own way is because that back in the day, this was the most scientifically accurate film depicted about dinosaurs. So
yeah, it was at the time, and the part that got me was when they were saying how big Ceratosaurus was in this, and they said Ceratosaurus was...
I think they oversized the dinosaurs a little.
It was 20 feet tall. They said Ceratosaurus was like 20 feet tall, and I'm like, dude, Ceratosaurus wasn't even that big. Like, it was big, but it wasn't like... I think Ceratosaurus was like 9 feet high, like 8 or 9 feet.
Well,
maybe
at
10?
At that time period, a lot of estimated sizes for dinosaurs were a little oversized. But nowadays, like, even though there's proof now, there's scientific proof now saying that Tyrannosaurus was bigger than we originally thought, and like maybe it was just as big as how they thought it was back in the 1950s and 1940s. In the 40s and 50s, it was estimated to be 50 feet long. Nowadays, we estimate it at 40 feet long, but there's new scientific evidence that's emerged saying that it could reach lengths of up to 50 feet.
Yeah, like it's like David. It's like
but with the other dinosaurs, though, especially with the Ceratosaurus, which, like Tim said, wasn't a very big dinosaur at all. 20 feet tall was quite oversized.
Like a 20-foot, like honestly, a 20-foot Cerato, like that would. I don't know. I just think that's kind of off. Like especially when you look at those Cerato from 1 million years BC. Like that Ceratosaurus was massive. Like that Cerato was massive in that movie.
Yeah.
Like that Ceratosaurus was huge.
I love dinosaurs in that movie. Were near kaiju size actually. So
well, except the Allosaurus. The Allosaurus was not that big. Like the Allosaurus was.
It was not because it was a juvenile. That's why.
Like what do you call? But either way, the dinosaur sequence here from the animal world. There are different ways you can watch it. Like James, you said you watched it on Facebook. You said you saw it on Facebook. You were watching it on Facebook.
Well, several pages on Facebook have uploaded the full sequence several times on their pages, and I was like, "Oh well, great."
Well, for me, it's on. Well, for me, for those of you who like to buy the DVD releases of monster movies that came out in the 1950s, this was actually a bonus feature on the Black Scorpion, which I'm not gonna lie is actually an odd choice because the Black Scorpion, you'd think you would have something bug related, but they put a dinosaur sequence on a movie about giant as a special feature on a movie about giant scorpions. Like, that's kind of a really odd choice, but since it deals with the stop motion done by, you know, Willis O'Brien and Harryhausen and shit, I can kind of see why they did it. I could kind of see why that they put it there. But that's how I was able to watch this. And it's so weird. One last thing I gotta mention is it's so weird how during the extinction scene where the green screen for the lava in the background was really oddly placed. Like, you have footage of a where the camera is on the lava shot was really, really weird. Like, they made the lava bigger than it is with some trees in front of it. And it was so, I don't know, it just made it look off. Like that one shot where they were showing the lava behind the trees without the volcano there just looked weird. It looked really, really weird. Like, there's usually a mountain. There's usually a mountain there. Oh, and I love how in all these movies when a volcano erupts, the lava is like an afterthought kind of thing. And when every time a volcano blows up, it's literally just a ball of fire. Just straight up fire whenever a volcano goes off.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you have a point. That's true.
And this short was This short was absolutely no exception to that. But overall, it's actually not that. This thing, like James was saying, this was at the time the most accurate interpretation of dinosaurs at the time. So overall, it is worth watching, not gonna lie. It really is worth watching if you're a dinosaur fanatic, or if you're a paleontology fanatic, or if you're just a Ray Harryhausen fan overall, because Harryhausen stop motion is honestly, I mean, any bit of animation where you see Ray Harryhausen's name on it is like, you're bound to be in for a little fun time here. Like, anything with Harryhausen's name is just like, yep, I already know what I'm watching. Like, I already know what I'm in for. So, what would you rate this out of 10? Because I give it at least a 7. Like, the stop motion is great, but the stop motion is good. Well, it's great, actually. The stop motion's great. The miniature sets could have been a little better. And the close-up puppets, with the exception of the Brontosaurus, the close-up puppets just didn't need to be there. Did not need to be there.
Yeah, I fully agree with you on that. And because there's a lot of interesting facts surrounding this movie, like, this would be the last time Harryhausen and O'Brien would collaborate on something together, but instead of the way that we think it went, it actually went a totally different direction. Not the opposite way around, but in a way like you don't really expect, with Harryhausen animating the models and O'Brien designing the models, which is a very interesting fact. And then and the fact that it was the most scientifically accurate dinosaur-related piece of media back in the day is a very interesting fact. Like, and again, like I said with Fantasia Ride of Spring, it just goes to show how far we've come in regards to our knowledge about dinosaurs and everything about them. So I'm going to give this a little higher score than you. I'm going to give it 7.5, 7.5 out of 10.
It's so funny, folks, how, and I'm pretty sure, I hope some of you noticed this, James was saying about Carnosaur 1, how I'm usually the one that gives the slightly higher score, but no, not this time. The tables have turned. Now James is the one giving the higher scores here.
I never thought it's coming.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, is there anything else you wanted to say about this? I think we've said pretty much.
I think we've covered it all.
Yeah, so we hope you enjoyed this, once again, this nice little short here. Please be sure to go follow James at Jurassic World Monsterverse 2 on his Instagram, and then follow me, Megalania 2023. Both of our names will be in the description below, so you can go look us up. And also, Dude Meister as well, even though he wasn't part of this, go look him up too, because he is a huge part of Paleophiles Reviews. He's a fellow reviewer along with us here, so go and follow him as well. His name will also be in the description below. And then also, please be sure to like, share, and consider subscribing. And we just want to thank you for all the views that you've been giving all of our videos when we started with our Kongathon up to now. And we have so much shit planned out this year, and we have, put it this way, folks, James here, this is how much this guy's brain has been going, well, since, you know, he's a monkey fan, so I'm going to say going apeshit. So, like, this is how much his brain's been going apeshit. Like, not only do we have our content planned for this year, he's already planning next year, so... Yeah. So we're getting, like, so many movie reviews, we've got, like, so much planned, but we're not spoiling anything. We're not spoiling anything because every video is going to be a surprise for you guys, one bit after the other here. So, yeah, this is Tim W. Rago, a.k.a. Megalania 2023.
Jurassic World Monsterverse 2, peace out, guys, and we'll see you in the next review.
See you in the next review, folks.